Welcome to the Overgrowth Art Asset Overview. This week I'm going to cover the modeling steps that it takes to get a weapon into the game. The first step is modeling out the basic shapes for the high poly model. For this part I like to use a technique called subdivision surface modeling, where you use a simple mesh that's smoothed to create a model that I can later use for sculpting. It's important to get most of the details right at this point because the changes that I'm going to make with the sculpting are pretty minor, just adding weathering and maybe some carving. I wanted to do a couple of variations of this weapon, so here is the first variation. And here's the one that looks more like the one in the concept art. With that out of the way, then we can go and add some small details with the sculpting. Add some carving into the handle, just to, it looks interesting, but also it would be practical. This pattern would improve grip. I had intended the blades to look kind of like leaves, so I'm just repeating that motif on in the carving here. And finally adding some wood grain. The final modeling step is to create the game resolution mesh, which is a lot lower resolution than the previous meshes. So to do that, I'm using my previous model and just simplifying that a lot. There are a couple of extra steps here, like creating the UV map and the actual color texture, and baking the high resolution mesh to the low resolution mesh, and that gets us our final in-game asset. In addition to doing the other variation of this weapon that I mentioned earlier, I think it would be fun to try out some different colors for this and see if that looks cool. And finally, I continued working on the clothing assets for this character. Most of them are finished now, except for their final color texture. I think next week I should be able to get this character finalized and running around in the game. Thanks for watching, and don't forget you can pre-order the game at wolfire.com/preorder.